the wording of AGOA might need to be changed so the law is more like the EU partnership agreements. He said the United States is unlikely to support calls for giving African partners one-way access to the American market while limiting trade for American companies. In the end, the United States Congress will decide whether or not to approve an extension of the law and for how long. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. In June, leaders and top finance officials from the world's 20 biggest economies gathered in Toronto, Canada. One of the big issues they discussed is how and when to reduce deficits and economic growth measures as conditions improve. Chancellor Angela Merkel defended Germany's decision to cut spending by $100 billion over 4 years. But some experts say the world economy is still too weak for Europe's biggest country to reduce spending. Earlier this year, Germany was slow to react to the Greek debt crisis. European countries later had to agree to a nearly $1 trillion rescue for the euro area. Other countries, including Britain, France, and Japan, have also announced cuts. But American Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner says, without growth now, deficits will rise further and undermine future growth. Economists also point out that spending cuts alone do not solve the problems of countries with structural economic problems. G20 nations are also struggling with financial reform issues. These include new rules for risky financial products and closer supervision of banks. In June, Britain's finance minister announced a new tax on big banks. Germany and France are considering similar measures to pay for future financial problems. President Obama proposed the idea for the United States in January. But how many countries will join Britain is not clear. 19 countries and the European Union form the Group of 20, including developing economies like Brazil, China, India, and Russia. Economist Sebastian Mallaby at the Council on Foreign Relations says G20 nations should work together on financial reforms. G20 nations also face the issue of trade imbalances, like the one between the United States and China. China said it would not discuss the dispute over its currency at the Toronto summit. But China announced it will slowly let the value of the yuan rise. It later reached its highest exchange rate in 2 years. China's export prices may rise, but an American diplomat said the action takes an irritant off the table in the U.S.-China relationship. And that's the VOA Special English Economics Report. For more news about economics, visit our website at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also comment on our programs and find transcripts, MP3s, and podcasts. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. 11 countries first began to use the euro in 1999. Today, 17 of the 27 members of the European Union are in the euro area. The euro's foreign exchange value has remained strong against the dollar and other currencies. But economic growth in the euro area was only 0.2% from April to June. Europe's biggest economy, Germany, grew at half that rate. Ireland, Portugal, and Greece have all required rescues. Greece received emergency loans twice. Debt and other problems in southern Europe remain a big concern. In early August, the European Central Bank bought more than $30 billion in Italian and Spanish debt securities. Italy and Spain have yet to recover from the worldwide recession. The purchases of their government debt helped reduce their borrowing costs, but the bank will probably have to act again. On August 16th, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Nicolas Sarkozy met in Paris. They discussed economic governance for the euro area and cooperation on budget and tax policies. Chancellor Merkel said, "We want France and Germany to move closer in terms of fiscal integration." Their proposal calls for a true European economic government. It would include the leaders of the 17 euro countries and would be led by the European Union president. The group would meet at least twice a year. One goal would be to control budget deficits for euro area countries. Rules limit the deficits of EU members to 3% of the size of their economies. But many members, including France, have bigger deficits than that. The two leaders also proposed a tax on financial dealings in Europe, but they did not support the idea of euro bonds. These would be loans guaranteed by all euro countries instead of only the governments seeking them. The European Commission says it supports the French and German proposals. The Commission proposes and enforces legislation for the EU. An EU spokesman said, "We already mentioned the need to strengthen the economic part of the Economic and Monetary Union. What is happening now since the beginning of the crisis and what has been announced as a proposal by France and Germany go exactly in this direction." But many experts question whether European countries will be willing to surrender individual powers and deal with their debt problems together. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. India is traditionally a tea-drinking country, but Indians are gaining a new taste for coffee. This has led international coffee companies to consider moving into the market. At the same time, local business people are looking for new ways to profit from the country's tea-drinking tradition. They are opening new places that offer tea. Coffee shops have spread from major cities like New Delhi and Mumbai to smaller towns. In the past 10 years, cafes have become increasingly popular. India's huge population of young people has quickly taken to the coffee culture. Indians now drink twice as much coffee as they did 10 years ago. The success of the coffee market has gained the attention of foreign companies like Starbucks. The American-based company will open its first store in India later this year. Other companies like Lavazza and Costa Coffee are already there. The head of the India Coffee Trust, Anil Kumar Bhandari, praises Starbucks' decision. He says cafes in India have become central to the lifestyle of the young middle class. He says coffee companies like Starbucks should have been here before. Almost any cafe chain which has a reasonable quality with its service, ambiance, and food, and coffee first, will succeed in this country. Look at the young population, he says. They are all taking to it like ducks to water. India has over 1 billion people. Business experts point out that half of them are under the age of 25. Yet, even with the growth in coffee drinking, Indians still drink 8 times more tea. They have been drinking